Mermaid live. How do mermaids poop?
Hello friends! Today we are answering some awkward kids questions that you might encounter if you're a professional mermaid doing a gig. If you're a professional mermaid, then you already know a lot of these questions and have some answers prepared, hopefully, because they're the kind of questions that can leave you kind of on the spot. They're uncomfortable. So I'm going to go over some of the most awkward questions that kids might ask at a mermaid gig, and then I'm going to give you some examples for answers. So the first question was, how do mermaids poop? That's a good question. So here is an example of how I might answer that. So first I might be like, like giggle, and then I'd be like, oh, well that's a really embarrassing question. I'm not really comfortable talking about that. Or you could say something like, what happens in the bathroom stays in the bathroom. Or maybe you'd say, well, mermaids poop the same way that fish do it. By the way, do you want to hear a fun fact about fish? I have so many. I love fish. And then there's always, you could say, oh, mermaids don't poop. When we eat food, it just turns into magic bubbles, and then we burp it out. Make it magical, you know?
Do mermaids fart?
Another good question that you might encounter. You might say something like, I don't know what that means. Then just change the subject. Or you could say, mermaids are different than humans. We don't do that. Or you could say, sometimes we release gas bubbles out of our gills, but it's not quite the same as when humans toot. Or you could say, I don't know, some mermaids might do that, but I never have. When in doubt, just let out a cute little mermaid giggle, like and just look like you're embarrassed, and the kids will probably get a kick out of that. Okay, any more questions?
Why don't you have gills?
That is a good question. I'm sure you're really curious as to why I don't have gills. That's because they only come out when I'm in seawater. Or you could say like, oh, well, you can't really see them, but they're there. Or you could say, well, mermaids are all different. Like, some of us have gills, but I'm not the kind of mermaid that has gills. Where we live, I can feel legs. Are you a real mermaid? Sometimes the kids will feel, like your knees and your legs. So if they say something like, why can't I feel your legs? Or I can see your knees, just be like, oh, well, that's just my mermaid bone structure. It's very similar to how human legs are. How did you get here to this party? Ah, yes, how did you get here? The kids will usually want to know that. It makes sense. So there's a couple approaches you could take. There's always the, someone put me in a tank and drove me here. Or sometimes I can use my mermaid magic to turn into a human temporarily, and then when I get in the water, I turn back into a mermaid. Sometimes they'll say, can you show us? In which case, I would always respond with something like, oh, well, I don't really like transforming into a human because it's kind of a painful process.
Can you demonstrate your magic powers?
Usually I would just say something like, my mermaid powers only work when I'm in the ocean. Or you could just say, I don't actually have any powers. Some mermaids do, some mermaids don't.
Mermaid live. How do mermaids make babies?
Ooh, that one's a doozy. So, incredibly awkward question. You don't want to explain reproduction to a child. They probably don't even know where humans come from. I don't really know, what are parents even saying these days when kids ask where babies come from? Do they still say that they were dropped off by a stork or something? You could just say something like that, or just totally change the subject, or be like, I'll tell you about that when you're older. It's really complicated. Get creative with it. That's a tricky question. Okay, well, this has been just a little video about being a professional mermaid, some of the questions that you come across. I hope you found this helpful if you're an aspiring professional mermaid. I've been doing mermaid gigs since 2020, so I do know some things. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. I hope you guys liked this video. I really appreciate you if you watched all the way to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, have a magical day. Bye bye.